Welcome back to Beyond the Shell. Today, we're talking about Body Count. So before we break down the miniseries itself, we're going to get into a little history. Buddy, take it away.
So in the early 80s, Kevin Eastman was a artist who really wore what he loved on his sleeves, guys. And with the re-release of Raphael #1, we would get the fun side story, Fun with Guns. This is pretty much just like the prototype for what Body Count would later be.
Yeah, it was a fun little book. It's just Casey and Raph messing around with guns and just being like, oh wow. I don't know if we really like this stuff.
The story would later be reprinted in stuff such like Shell Shock. We always have this in every video for some reason now.
That's why you were calling it the Bible.
Yeah.
It really is, I guess.
The story would be even reprinted in the Ultimate Collection, and it would give some insight from Eastman, which I do appreciate, because he had owned guns, but then eventually kind of gave them up. And I kind of get it, where I'm like, hey, guns are definitely a necessary evil, but definitely having the power to take somebody's life, yeah, that can be definitely pretty heavy on somebody's mind. But again, as a creator of a martial arts comic, they make for some very fun action scenes.
Personally, I totally agree with that sentiment. As much as I would love to shoot a gun, I've never shot a gun before. I never would want to own one because I would just be scared that it would go off and I would shoot myself or shoot someone or something bad would happen.
Yeah. So, going...
I wouldn't purposely shoot anyone though. Let me get that clear.
Looking at the other artists involved, Simon Bisley, a concept that creator Kevin Eastman and fellow Mirage staffer Eric Talbot were kicking around for years, Melting Pot, would eventually get picked up, and this would be the first collaboration with Simon Bisley.
Very savage metal artwork, very horny. Yeah, again, this artwork kind of just reminds me of Frank Rosetta stuff, some Conan fantasy work. Very, very cool.
Yeah, Simon Bisley would also work on Lobo over at DC, which would be his big break into the States. So Body Count would get a software release, guys, in the form of Casey Jones and Raphael from Mirage. It would just be a preview book with Raph barely appearing, but again, a beautiful cover from Viz. And eventually, the rights for the Turtles would go over to Image, and we would get Body Count finally.
Body Count is a 4-issue miniseries. It's a really fun read. It's funny, after I finished reading this and then heard that one of the precursors was called Fun with Guns, I was like, that literally would have been the perfect name for this series. Because it's literally just Casey and Raph messing around with guns. Most notably, Raph complains about how he can't fit his fingers into the triggers and stuff, and there's a whole bunch of shenanigans. I actually first got introduced to these books when I was real young, because my dad had them. My dad is a big comic guy. I knew he was interested in the Turtles, but I never pegged him as a real, Turtles fan back in the day. But he had these. What year did these come out?
I think sometime between 1995 or 1996. We can definitely check that later. Again, a quick shout out to colorist and artist Steve Levine, who also did the lettering for this book. His colors and letters are just so distinct and make this comic one of a kind, and that's what we love about the early Mirage and Image books like these.
So issue 1 kind of introduces us to all of our main characters. We get Casey, we get Raph, we get this new character named Midnight, who is on the run because Johnny Woo Woo's hunting her down. And Johnny Woo Woo is like a crazy assassin. He's literally just killing everybody who's in his way. And not even in his way, meaning they're trying to stop him. No, if Midnight's at a place, he's leveling every single person in that place.
And Bisley's art just gives the carnage so much dynamicism and life to it, man, where his art is just so one of a kind with Eastman's storytelling,
Yeah, the artwork is very gritty, very nasty. It kind of fits this world perfectly. So Midnight kind of gets into the mix because she's on the run from Johnny Woo Woo. She ends up at this bar, and guess who's there? Casey Jones. Once a gunfight breaks out, because again, everyone just has guns and they're shooting at each other like crazy, Casey and Midnight kind of dip out. The book has some great introductions with Raph kind of jumping into the fight, and the whole first issue kind of ends with a fight between Raph and Johnny Woo Woo where they're kind of going back and forth, but then Midnight kind of just swoops in and cracks Johnny over the head and they kind of just dip out. Issue 2 is an interesting one because Midnight, Raph, and Casey are kind of just on the run together. They get into disguises as well, and we get Raphael dropping the R slur.
Yeah, that was a impactful moment reading that for the first time.
And the gang is basically just traveling from place to place trying to hide out at like different bars or clubs, and guess what? Johnny Woo Woo always shows up and starts shooting everybody. Yeah, they go to a club that's supposed to be like a safe house. Everyone gets wrecked. Johnny's just throwing grenades, shooting down everybody.
And like the subplot of the feds being involved like starts in this one, right?
Mm-hmm. There are these two just like sus, like mangled looking federal agents who are just
They
in
are
on
just
it.
gross as fuck.
Moving on to issue 3. Again, we got a lot of horniness on the cover. Also, the back of all these comics is the Savage Dragon Jim Lee TMNT figures. Such a great ad.
It's such a relic of the time, man.
So the gang is on the run and they end up in Pittsburgh. They end up at this church, which is supposedly another safe house, but it's also where one of these big gang leaders is stocking up a whole arsenal of weapons. But guess what? Johnny Woo Woo shows up once again, and he's blasting everybody. Everybody. He even crashes a car through the church, dismembering some of the goons and just like tearing them apart.
Biz's talent just for like carnage like that and just sheer viscera is just such mastery.
But our heroes were at this place to get more weapons and get more artillery to fight Johnny. And that they did, because we get a beautiful shot where our bad guys have a whole bunch of the people cornered. And Casey and Raph leap down with their new gear. Casey wearing his beautiful red, white, and blue mask, and Raph holding 2 guns, and they're ready to go to town in issue 4. We haven't really talked too much about the experiences with guns throughout the first couple issues. As soon as they start getting shot at, they're kind of surprised. They're like, holy crap, like, this isn't something that happens to us. Like, what the hell? But we kind of have to fight back, fight fire with fire. How else are we going to fight these people who are shooting at us if we don't use guns? And they're kind of screwed into just using a bunch of guns. And again, they're loving the power, but also realizing how dangerous it is.
Yeah. Because I feel like with most people, in regards to how they kind of see Bodycount as just a straight-up action comic, I do feel there are like some kind of neat undertones at the end of the day with the book.
So here is issue 4.
Again, one of the best covers from Son Bisley of all time, up there with Lobo #1 for me, guys.
Yeah, this is the cover that I always remembered from when I was a kid. Such a great shot of Raph. Just loaded up with a bunch of guns and ninja weapons. So this is kind of like the final battle. Raph, Midnight, and Casey are all kind of just battling Johnny Woo Woo and all of his goons. There's a bloody skirmish, and Raph kind of just like loses himself a little bit. He almost has like too much fun shooting people, and Casey's like, whoa, Raph. You gotta relax a little bit, buddy. You're kind of just like, this is getting out of hand. But then, this part scared the crap out of me. It was so tragic. Casey gets shot. And there's a whole scene where Midnight is prepping to fight Johnny Woo Woo. And she gets into like less clothing. Like,
Yeah,
it's weird. Like, I don't
for
know.
the shits and giggles,
I don't know if that's
guys.
her like, fighting uniform, but it's literally she's wearing like tattered. It's basically like a bunch of string. But as Raph is holding Casey lifeless in his arms and he's crying over his body, Johnny Woo Woo and a very scantily dressed Midnight are kind of having this death battle. And you kind of figure out they're like brother and sister or something. There's a whole subplot with the Hong Kong Mafia. It's not really relevant, but it's kind of relevant. The battle ends with Johnny and Midnight kind of at a stalemate, and then Midnight kind of gets the upper hand, and they kind of pause and have one last dialogue. and then Johnny kind of pulls himself towards Midnight's knife, killing himself. And then it turns out Casey's alive.
Saved by a golden coin. Plot armor to the max.
Thank God. After that, the gang leaders kind of just like blow up the whole safe house with all the guns and stuff in it. And Midnight, Raph, and Casey just dip out before it blows up. And all the FBI moles are kind of freaking out because they're like, oh my God, like we were supposed to get money and bust this whole thing.
You have a pretty solid career in selling glizzies at the end of the day.
Yeah, they cameo as glizzy salesmen. And they see Casey and Raph, and they're like, oh, when did we see those guys? And they're like, whatever, like, they're just some random stupid people. But it's like, Raph is so obviously not a human being that they're just like...
That's what I love about that panel.
He just is wearing jeans and a hat. Then they kind of part ways with Midnight, and then we get some sparks of a romantic relationship between Casey and Midnight, but then they're like, oh, we can't be together. Midnight's all like, I'm not the woman I'd want to be for you, and blah, blah. They should have just gotten together.
Yeah.
The pair part ways. Casey and Raph hitchhike home to New York. And that pretty much wraps up the book and the series.
So it would be the legacy of Bodycount. Bodycount would be collected in a trade paperback by Heavy Metal and Image, but getting your hands on those, it's going to be pretty tough. It is around like 200 for either of them.
Yeah, I definitely got to find my dad's issues in the attic. My dad just has a treasure trove of long boxes up there.
Also, we would get a figure from Best Action of Casey from the Image and Bodycount miniseries rocking the American flag mask.
Which I don't know why I don't have. Was it an exclusive?
No, like... I do have it, like, I can take a picture of it.
You got the point... Does he have the pointy mask?
Yeah, it has a pointy mask and everything. I also like the...
Fuck, dude, is it like a lot of money?
I don't know. We'll double check.
I need that. Why didn't I know they had that?
Yeah.
I don't pay a lot of attention to Best Action.
Dude, NECA needs to make a replica of Body Count mask. They have like the movie mask, they need to make the Body Count mask.
That'd be fine. Or just Ultimates. So yeah, guys, overall, Body Count is a great miniseries. I definitely recommend it to any Turtles fan. This is definitely a lot more of a graphic, bloody, gory, very rude and raunchy version of the Turtles. But it's a great book.
The reason why I love Body Count so much is it knows what it's doing, guys. And again, as I had said in the crossover video, Eric's
so horny. Oh my god.
Wait, what?
It's such a horny like book.
Dude, that caught me off so good.
No, the Body Count. What do you think I was talking about? All right, buddy. Get your mind out of the gutter, dude. Go on. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Dude, you said... Okay. Dude, you can be a sussy
buddy!
Have you been doing your tasks?
I don't know what the fuck that means, buddy.
You're an imposter among us.
Definitely cutting that out. We don't make Among Us jokes on this channel, buddy. What were you saying? Before I say all that horny stuff? Any other final thoughts about Body Count, buddy? I'm sorry I kind of derailed us. Did I just ruin this episode? Are you okay? I think I broke Buddy.
I'm good. I'm good. Dude,
what else do you have to say?
Okay, so...
In closing remarks, buddy.
My closing remarks... Overall, Body Count is just a mini-series that if you find for a good price, guys, absolutely snatch it up, because just the art by Simon Bisley along with Kev's storytelling, it's just so great, guys.
Yeah, it's a really fun story. Check it out. Okay, guys, that pretty much wraps it up for the Body Count episode. Stay tuned for more beyond the show. Have a good one, folks.
Hope you enjoyed, and like and subscribe.
Also comment some stuff.
No!
Fucking told you, buddy.